Welcome to the Authentic Change Podcast. I'm Mike Horne, your host, and this podcast is for leaders and coaches who need and want fresh perspectives on what it means to live and to lead authentically. You're a leader who wants to make a difference, but sometimes you feel stuck. You know there's more to life and to leadership than what you're currently experiencing. It can be tough to figure out how to grow as a leader. You might be reading all the blogs and books, but it still feels like you're not making progress. You might even be feeling like you're doing everything wrong. On Authentic Change with Mike Horne, we interview experts who share their insights on how to live and lead authentically. Our guests are trendsetters in building great leaders, teams, and organizations. We provide fresh perspectives on what it means to live with purpose and authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast.
Welcome to this episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. I am absolutely delighted to present another solo episode. And this time we're exploring the topic of integrity based on ideas from my book, Integrity by Design, Working and Living Authentically. Today's topic is the importance of organizational integrity and its impact on leadership success. And in addition to beginning by welcoming you to the podcast, I'd like to start off with a quote by the late Betty White, which is also featured in the book, Integrity by Design, Working and Living Authentically. And what the late Betty White said is that you don't luck into integrity, you work on it. And I think that's true, particularly for those of you in human resources and organization development, in coaching and consulting. This requires real work. And perhaps the bar is even higher for organizational leaders, our scientists, our technical leaders, our engineers who are trying to build cultures of trust, where real work gets done, where authentic leadership occurs. So we have to remember that this isn't something that occurs by chance, by fortune, but rather it's something that requires work. So I'll explore with you today currencies in integrity and how our actions contribute to the success and effective exercise of leadership within organizations. So let's come back to this again and once more think about what is organizational integrity. And perhaps it's best to take it from a personal level. I think about integrity as congruence, when my words and actions align, and even better, when my thoughts, words, and actions align. We don't want people just going through the motions. If the value system isn't there, if the belief system isn't there, it's very difficult to create change, to create effective working relationships. Look, you may get by for a day or two, 6 months, a year, but you will never reap the benefits of high performance, of effective performance, of getting people to bring more of who they are to what they do without the foundation of trust. And that begins with making sure that you're in alignment. Do you understand your values? Do you understand how they shape what you do? So this congruence between our thoughts, words, and actions is essential. And then not only to have that internal alignment, it's not a dialogue with ourselves, but to take agency to put that out into the world so that people also get to experience us and we're able to bring the best of who we are to what we do. Let's think about this as an organizational resource, because I don't think we often do think about integrity, congruence, the real deal, the authentic self, being of whole cloth as a currency, as a value in an organization. And when we fail to think about it as a value, we undermine our own effectiveness. We shortchange the stakeholders to an organization, the shareholders of an organization. So we really want to make sure that we have a good understanding of integrity. It's this honesty. It's the real deal. Look, don't we all respond better when someone's honest? Maybe given some of the current politics in the United States and in other parts of the world, we don't see this. But in the end, I think we're attracted. In fact, the research proves this, that we're attracted to work with others who express these congruencies. What I believe is that when we're aligned, we have an internal happiness, and people want to work around happy people. Happiness is contagious. It's the ability to bring a smile. It's the ability to say hello to someone. And then if we break it down this way, we can begin to see in some very practical and meaningful and productive ways how important integrity is to organizational life. So let's think about behavior and conflict in creating organizational integrity. One thing that's true is that it's not something that you can buy. You can't purchase it. You can't rent it. You can't have a frequent traveler program that will award you points for integrity. Rather, what we do is that as individuals, as humans, we extend recognition, we extend status to the truth tellers that are among us. And it's always been one of the hallmarks of effective organization development consulting, effective coaching, is being able to speak truth to power. Let's face it, many of us are coaching chief executive officers, executive vice presidents, senior vice presidents, and these are people who are in powerful positions. And here you are, perhaps a solo practitioner, perhaps a member of a collective, perhaps a member of a large consulting firm. You may you have a different status, and to use that status effectively is to speak truth to power. Such an important way of thinking about it. Often when we think about currency, we think about systems of money. We think about euros, dollars, American dollars, yen, Japanese yen. And as a system, currency has certain qualities of exchange. It's an exchange. It's a circulation. It's value. Exchange, circulation, and value. And these qualities make a currency relevant across many disciplines and many fields. In psychology, for example, currency is the exchange of information that promotes and provides self-satisfaction. And that exchange reinforces a measure of control. Another quality of currency is contemporaneity, the ability to do it on the spot. You can think about how things move from idea to adoption to acceptance. Let's even take, as many of you know, I am head of a faculty at university. And in many business schools, professors teach students formulas for developing social currencies for brands. Yelp, LinkedIn, YouTube are all examples of brands that have social integrity. So as you think about these concepts, we want to really pursue, how are we lifting these up as leaders? How are we lifting them up for our organization and to the benefit of our coworkers, our colleagues, and other important organizational stakeholders? And often integrity gets tested in relationships, and we see integrity in conflict. You know, as I think about it, when a conflict arises, our integrity gets challenged. Will we sweep things under the rug? Will we attempt to reach some sort of compromise? Will we collaborate with others? Will we avoid them? And all of these are factors in conflict handling and conflict resolution that I think bear some witness and bear some truth to how we demonstrate and display integrity in organizational life. And you have to think about this as a renewable resource. Integrity isn't a fixed resource in organizational life. Because we interact with others during the day, we have an opportunity day in, day out, moment by moment, to live out and to fulfill our design on bringing our values to the workplace and to having everyone bring their best to every situation in organizational life. And I don't think we often recognize truth-telling in organizations. We don't recognize honesty. You know, as I said before, you can go into many organizations. It was at one time, and I'm sure it is today, that integrity was among the top values of most Fortune 500 companies. And yet we have so many examples of situations where it was just a word on paper, or as they used to say, it was on the walls, but not in the halls. So as you begin to think about organizational integrity, we have to know that seeing is believing. Results do matter. Recent experiences in large companies bear this out. We have to look at CEO decisions. How do they retain people? What do boards do relative to this? So you might have some milestones. You might have an integrity index that consider the progress in the development of trust, if you want to think about it that way, if you're more comfortable thinking about it that way in terms of employee engagement. You may be able to do that. Let's look at 5 things that will ensure organizational integrity. And part of it, for all of my human resources colleagues who know this so well, it starts with hiring the right people. And what I'd encourage you to do is that if you're building this currency, if you're building an integrity currency in an organization, is to select individuals by using teams. Get a broad sense. Start to create acceptance right away in the talent acquisition process. Within teams, we can see how organizational values affect decision-making, affect selection decisions. So that's one item. Let's start with the right people. Let's go to number 2. Start with an organizational strategy, people strategy. As I always think about Chandler's famous diction in organizational behavior, strategy, structure, behavior. You've got to have strategy, then a structure, then behavior. These things operate in a linear fashion. You can't have the tail wagging the dog. Rather, we want to be in control. So use executive retreats, use dialogue sessions to clarify organizational values and visions. I'm working with a client right now. I don't think the members of the executive team really have discussed what their values are, what their aspirations are. And this creates a leadership vacuum in the organization. So we're starting with the right people. We're starting with organizational strategy. We're using retreats and offsites and dialogues as a way of clarifying organizational values. Thirdly, we want to build robust performance competencies that support organizational integrity. If you don't have a way to measure, to assess, to discuss, to improve, then any path takes you. So lying might be okay. Overlooking people, overlooking issues might be okay. There's got to be some competency built around the topic of integrity. So we've got the right people, we've got a strategy, we've got robust measures of integrity in organizations. And I think what people often fail to do is the 4th point, which is to make integrity, truth-telling, trust a topic of conversation in organizations. Because all of us know, if I don't think a leader has integrity, I won't trust them. And if I don't trust them, I certainly won't think they have integrity. So this goes hand in hand. It's a symbiotic relationship. So how do we make it a conversation in an organization? I think we're very hesitant. As I've said before, people often ask me as an author of a book on integrity, is it okay to tell a lie? I sort of laugh and say, why are you asking me? What I do know, though, is that in the absence of trust, effective relationships don't occur or they erode. If I tell one lie, it's likely to lead to another lie, and there goes trust. And trust is very difficult to recover. I think more people tend to freely give trust, particularly in American society. But once it's broken, it's very difficult to regain. And so start off on the right foot. And if we're to have a 5th topic, that 5th topic is, where do I start? I say start with yourself. Ask, what are you doing to support a culture of integrity in your organization? And get some feedback. So there are the 5 points. Start with the right people. Start with the strategy. Build a robust performance measure. Make integrity a conversation. And if you're confused and don't know where to start with yourself. It's the best way to do that. One of the things that we can further discuss is that it's very difficult to import or export organizational integrity from one place to another place, from one organization to another organization. Your organization is unique. There's some unique transformative process that takes environmental inputs, transforms them, and makes an output that for which people are willing to pay, purchase, buy, or consume. It's not some sort of off-the-shelf leadership development program or the 10 steps to integrity that you might find in the training or learning and development marketplace. Rather, behavioral integrity promotes successful performance. And if you're a leader, you can't say, well, just give me a little of what ABC company has or XYZ company has, and that will help us to create an honest climate. Integrity has to be hardwired into organizational identity. When you and your organizations are performing with integrity, it's going to be that unique property that is not for sale. It's going to be unavailable for export. And certainly in eras of cost containment, you just look at the news, many become short-sighted about the leadership development investment. And the consequences of this behavior show up today in large measure across our social landscapes. So let's think about cultures that support and shape our choices. Let's think about organizational leaders and their ability to change. We have a leadership crisis in many organizations. We need more effective leaders, and it starts with hiring leaders with integrity. As we do this, we really want to ensure that organizations weather and withstand the storms that occur throughout time. Can you imagine working in an organization that is under intense public scrutiny, or a job where everyone seems to be watching you all of the time? In either of these situations, you may be, in some ways, toil and isolation in subpar conditions. What happens is that we have to make these values show up. Boards have to affirm them. Executives have to lead with them. You know, most of the folks that I work with are very smart people. Often they're the smartest people, the scientists, the engineers that I work with, they are often some of the smartest people at the table. And many will advocate for leadership development, but they don't walk the talk. Again, this is a journey. Doesn't mean because yesterday you failed or yesterday you didn't do so well. We have to think about the activities that you do. And I'd encourage you to think about these four things in organizational integrity and walking the talk. Examine your perceptions. Read the environment. We know that we're affected by external environment. We're affected by the choices that we have. So examine your perspectives. Read the environment. Number 3, be visible. I'm often fond of saying, don't go out and take another survey if you're an executive. Just get out of your chair. Be visible. Show people your integrity. Make sure that your behaviors are grounded in the right thoughts and beliefs, and you'll yield enormous personal dividends. And that's what I'm looking forward to talking with you as we begin to relaunch Authentic Change soon, perhaps in February of 2024, is thinking about these people dividends, personal and organizational dividends. And the last thing I'd say is cut your losses. So examine your perceptions, read the environment, be visible, cut your losses when things aren't working out. Life is too short to have bad employees, to have bad executives. Think through your decisions. But if you follow the earlier advice, the 5 steps I suggested, then you're likely not to encounter these situations. And integrity has an enormous impact on the organization, and its environment. Look, if you want a piece of U.S. history that goes along this, the Sarbanes Act, later the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, at the beginning of this century, there was so much graft and corruption that we needed to mediate. And that is, in part, how we think about doing something, about acting so that others don't have to curtail or invade our own activities. It's about doing the right thing. So as we continue to think about organizational integrity, what you want to have is you want conversations that are full with a certain sense of humanistic values. And I think these underlie so much of what we talk about or have discussed in Authentic Change with Mike Horne. Respect, dignity, commitment, honesty, differences, and the topic of honor. Are you learning from your mistakes? Are you listening carefully? Are you committed to make things better? Are you integrated with what you say and do? Are you holding yourself accountable for many things? So we really want to grow our deposits of integrity, and that'll probably be another topic for a future episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. How do we grow our how do we grow our deposits? Again, thinking about this concept of integrity. And integrity will build long-term success. One of the facts about organizations, the one thing that they have in common is that most expire. I think those that build brands for a century or longer do have an underlying philosophy that is supported by integrity. And I am so excited to be thinking about future episodes where we can discuss the concepts of integrity by design, working and living authentically, available on Amazon. You'll see a link to my website, Mike-Horne, HORNE.com, in the show notes. And I encourage you to visit there. From there, you can find resources that will support your leadership journey, that will support your integrity journey. And I encourage you to reach out, to give me a call, to chat with me, Mike@Mike-Horne.com. And I'm looking forward to your success, the success of your team, the success of your organization, following the principles of integrity by design. As Stephen Covey said, integrity is conforming reality to our words. In other words, keeping our promises and fulfilling expectations. What a great way to begin to think about ending this podcast for today. Again, thank you. Please visit me at Mike-Horne.com or on LinkedIn. You'll find all of the references in the show notes. So until the next episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horne, and we are about ready to turn a corner to move into the people den. Stay well. I appreciate you listening to Authentic Change with Mike Horne.
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast. I'm delighted that you've tuned in to listen. Please visit the show notes for links to topics discussed in today's podcast. To download a free ebook on authentic change and leadership and to subscribe to my newsletter, please visit Mike-Horne.com. Once again, Mike-Horne.com, Mike-Horne.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast.